This is Gary Geiman with the Dominate the Day podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to help you get 1% better in your business, provide clarity, and give you some ideas that will help you grow your business. If you're ready to dominate the day, let's go.
Dominate the day, that's what we're about to do. If you don't want to dominate, then this podcast ain't for you. But if you are, then keep listening, cause every single damn day, the mission is to dominate. You already know we're here to dominate the day. So if you want to dominate every day, then let's go, it's time to grow. This is another episode of Dominate the Day.
So you get to Paris Island and it's like, I mean, what starts going through your head?
What have I done? Oh my God.
What the fuck?
So first plane ride, catch the airplane out of Cincinnati, land someplace down in South Carolina. They pick us up. We jump on a bus, rolling into Paris Island, jet black, no idea where the hell I'm at. Had never been really outside of the state except for maybe Tennessee, basketball camp, Virginia. And that's really been it, So get to Paris Island, it's jet black. Don't know nobody. Drill instructor climbs on the bus and immediately starts telling us what we're going to do. What we're going to do, where we're going to go. Grab your shit, put it here, put your feet, grab your feet, put them there. And the yelling didn't stop until August. It was 3 months of being called everything but my last name.
So how long was drill?
Boot camp?
Boot camp, yeah.
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, I think it was a couple weeks of receiving, kind of get your feet wet, waiting in the lobby of hell before it all starts, because you're receiving instructor. You go through, you get your uniforms, you get your haircut, get your shots, drop off all your civilian shit, and then they start kind of indoctrinating you a little bit to what is to come.
Yeah,
and then you get sent off to after your receiving phase, you get sent into your platoon, and then that's where the fun really starts.
So what was the hardest thing about boot camp to overcome?
For me, it was the mental. Wasn't used to being yelled at.
Oh.
The stress of being somebody in your face screaming at the top of their lungs, like, if you don't eat your piece faster, your life is going to cease to exist. Using my right hand over my left hand. I mean, it was every little thing was stress.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about, looking back on it, I think my interpretation was to build up your mental toughness. The physical part for me wasn't all that tough.
I got to believe that's what they're trying to accomplish, is finding out if you're going to break mentally.
Yeah.
Because breaking physically, like, that can be fixed pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the mental.
Your buddy rolled back or whatever, and then I'm sure people get injured in boot camp physically.
All the time.
Yeah. But the mental piece, like, if you're fucked up mentally, it's hard to overcome. Like, they want to see if you have the steel resolve.
Yeah. And they push.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're gonna be able to accomplish unless you're pushed to it, And then once you're there, you're either gonna make it or you're not.
Yeah.
So that's what boot camp was all about, was pushing through things that you as a person never experienced or never thought you could get through. And then, that's where you start to build your self-confidence. What they call it, the stairway to heaven. It's telephone poles, shaped like an A-frame. They're not close together. It's not like you're climbing up a ladder. You got to go up this A-frame up to a point, reach around this log, grab the rope, and then come down. Nobody does that in their normal course of a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
So you tell the kids, you're going to climb up this ginormous ladder, and then you're going to swing your little skinny ass around. You're going to grab that rope, and you're going to climb down, because if you slide down, you're going to burn all the skin off your hands right down to the bone. So you're going to have to control your descent. Nobody thinks they're going to be able to accomplish that, but we do. Everything about boot camp is, like I said, pushing past what you as a person were or had perceived were your thresholds, up until that point. And then from that point on, you build your confidence, you get out in the fleet. It challenges you to think, I've never done that before, but yeah, I could probably do that. We're going to do that.
So get through boot camp, have the graduation or whatever they call it. Like, what was your thoughts? What where was your mind at? And I mean, we're going back to 19, 20 years old. So I don't remember those things either, but like, can you remember, okay, here's what I want to accomplish. Do you have anything like that on your mind? Like, this is what I want, this is where I want to be, or this is what I want to try to do.
So I picked aviation because I knew Comair was just coming around, over at the airport. And the guys that I knew that worked at Comair, they were making pretty good money. They seemed to be pretty happy. I like working with my hands. I thought, I think I'm gonna go for aviation. So luckily, my ASVAB score that I took to get out of a class, I had no intentions, in high school of going in the military.
Yeah,
I took the ASVAB to get out of another fucking class that I hated. And luckily, I scored well enough that I got aviation. They assign you aviation, and then once you get through boot camp is when you find out what your specialty is going to be. Mine was engine maintenance. So I got to work on engines. Awesome. Loved it. Still doing it today. My aspiration was I want to have something to build upon once I get out. It wasn't an overly patriotic sense of duty.
Right. Trying to set yourself up for the future.
Yeah. I wasn't one of those kids that's like, oh, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps for the college money. Nobody goes to the Marine Corps for fucking college money. Right. Anybody who goes in the military, the pay shit, food shit, accommodations are shit. You make some really good friends out of it, and you go to some really cool places, and you have some really cool experiences. But, for me, it was, I want to have something when I get out. And I want to challenge myself. So I was glad I picked the Marine Corps. I was glad I got aviation. And it did. It set me up for what I'm doing today.
Yeah. So you work for GE Aircraft Engines, correct? And you basically work, what you do. Like
fixing engines.
Fixing
just
engines.
bigger.
They're just really fucking big.
They're really big. Yep.
Okay, so you get shipped where after Parris Island? Where do they send you?
So from Parris Island, I go to North Carolina, Geiger Tigers. That was our MCT, Marine Combat Training, because every Marine's a rifleman. So we go through our combat training. The guys who were going infantry, they go straight from boot camp to MCT, or go straight from boot camp to SOI. Everybody else goes through MCT.
To learn how to use a firearm and handle a firearm and all that stuff.
Yeah, they give you the basics, in boot camp, and then you go to MCT and you learn a little bit more. And then you go off to do your job. So after MCT, which was down at Camp Geiger.
Was that like 4 or 6 weeks, something like that?
I want to say it was less than a month.
Okay.
3 weeks, 2 weeks, something like that.
Okay. Kind of like just a little pit stop. We're going to learn about firearms, how to use them, how to take them apart, how to put them back together, how to shoot them right, all that stuff.
You're going to bivouac. You're going to hump. You're going to learn how to exit an aircraft. What else do we do?
Hold on, you jumped out of planes?
No.
Oh,
they had a static no. They had a static helicopter on a tarmac because there was an airfield there, I remember. And we come out of the helicopter, and we had to set up a perimeter, and then from that perimeter we would go off, into the surrounding woods and set up our bivouacs. That was a long time ago. The guys today, they do the Crucible at the end of boot camp. I don't even know if they still go through MCT or not, but this is now 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So MCT was the extent of our combat training, as it were, which was those following weeks out of boot camp. And then from there, you went off to your specialty school. So for me, I went to Millington, Tennessee, Naval Air Station, Millington, learned how to work on engines, T-64s, Eagle 53s. Went through that school, which was, I want to say 3 months-ish. And then from there, I went to California.
San Diego?
Nope.
No?
Tustin, California.
Okay.
It was Mile 16, T-64 shop, 41 November.
So you're up near, what is that, is that Sacramento, San Francisco?
Oh, no, not that far. I was right outside of Newport Beach.
Oh, okay.
You know where John Wayne International is?
Yeah. Is that where you were, John Wayne International, or close to that?
Real close to John Wayne.
Okay.
Yep. So we had El Toro, which is the fixed wing side. They were right down the road, right out the back gate. And then there was Tustin. So we've got the two big blimp hangars there in Southern California. If anybody flies into John Wayne International, you see two big blimp hangars. That community that's there now, that used to be our base.
So how long were you in California?
4 years.
That was a tough assignment, wasn't it? Hey, you're going to California.
Tough gig. 20 years old, landing in California. Yeah, first time on the left coast. You know, we got there in like December, right? So it's sunny California. That's all you hear is sunny California. It's nice and warm.
55, 60 degrees.
We got there. It might have been 60 or 70.
Yeah.
You know, we got there, took a cab out to the beach, saw the beach. The beach runs for a fucking mile out there. So by the time we got to the water, we were gassed. But we kept going because it's fucking sunny California. Mm-hmm. And we froze our ass off. Yeah. Because we hit the water. Yeah, and it's Pacific cold. And it's chilly.
You don't swim in the Pacific.
No. And it doesn't matter what time of year. No. That shit's cold all the time, especially in December. Yeah. That's why the beach is empty.
Yeah. Those fuckers in California don't get into the beach unless they're surfing and they have wetsuits on.
Yeah. 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 So I spent, you know, I did 1 year in California, went to Okinawa, did 6 months in Okinawa, jumped on a boat, did 3 months on a boat out of Okinawa, went to Guam, South Korea, and then eventually made our way back to Okinawa, White's Beach. And then from Okinawa, jumped on a plane, came back, broke down in Hawaii for a week.
Accidentally?
Well, I'm not the pilot. Or I wasn't the maintenance crew on that one either. I was just a passenger. Did not suck, by the way. Stuck in Hawaii for a week, waiting on parts, and then made our way back to California. Finished out my tour in California, and you know, from there, there's these little 2-week stints, you know, here and there. Yuma, 29 Palms.
Just different trainings or things you had to do.
Yeah.
As part of the job.
Yep.
So you served 8 or 4 years?
4 years active duty.
Okay, 4 years active duty, and then you went into reserves.
Yeah. So I came home, as a lot of guys do, thought, you know, had a great time, glad that shit's behind me, bagged all my shit up, threw it in the shed, and then I felt like I was missing something. You know what I mean? Wasn't firing all cylinders because that was all that I had known for the past 4 years. So I come back.
Very formative years too. I mean, early 20s, like.
Yeah, very, very forming years. The Marine Corps, it really did. It shaped my adult life in those four short years out there. First time away from home, you know, as a young man, going to Southern California, being in the Marines, and they're not, you know, you adult, like right now, as soon as you graduate boot camp, it's all on you. You know, you fuck up, you know, your punishment can vary anything from pack all your shit and go home to
here's a 9x9 that you get to stay in.
Yeah. Go dig a hole. You're going to learn how to dig tank traps this weekend. So here's your e-tool.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah. You know, so you learn adult very quick. You grow up very quick. And those 4 years, those first 4 years, they really shaped me, you know, for the rest of my adulthood. I firmly believe that. So I felt like I was missing something. I knew I didn't want to go back to active duty because I wanted to use this training that they had given me during those first 4 years. And I wanted to expand upon what the Marine Corps had turned me into, you know, and use it back here. My only problem was I needed to take civilian tests to do what I was doing in the Marine Corps, working on helicopter engines, working on engines. I needed to take civilian tests to do that here. So sign up for school, start that process. Long, tedious process. It was only 2 years, but it's a long 2 years when you feel like you already know what it is that you're teaching, you know, and you're like, oh, fuck, I got to sit through all this shit again. So sit through it, get my job with GE, but during that time, went back to the Marine Corps and said, hey, I don't want to go back to active duty, but I want to get back in the Marine Corps. I want to do something on the reserve side. Couldn't do anything aviation related because there wasn't anything close. So I had Comm Company, Cincinnati, had MPs in Lexington, had MPs up in Dayton. I thought, okay, well, my experience with MPs on active duty weren't always pleasant. I thought,
when you've been drinking or you're coming back late, something like that,
maybe, maybe those are the story. Those are the experiences the guys.
These are all fictional stories, of course. If anyone's listening, that shouldn't be.
Now, if I had been one of those who may have grabbed a bike at the front gate to make it back to the barracks because we didn't want to drive through, may have had a run-in with the MPs. Or if I had, say, one of those people who were caught all the time at the gate trying to sneak people through the gate say in your trunk or laying under something in the truck bed.
I'm sure it was dudes too, all the time.
If I had to put money on it, yeah, I'd say it was mostly guys.
While you're talking, I'm going to go get the bottles real quick.
Okay.
Because you're a little low.
So those are my choices. Comm company. Didn't know shit about comms. Didn't know what they did. Just knew that they had radios and satellites and talked the shit up in space. MPs, I thought, okay, I can be an MP for a weekend. So I ended up going up to MP company up in Dayton. Stayed there until 2012. Deployed out of there 3 times before I picked up first sergeant and moved on. Ended up eventually going down to comm company. From comm company, picked up combat engineers out of West Virginia, did a stint there, and then picked up sergeant major out of comm company, moved up to New York, which is where I retired out of 28 years.
So as on reserve, though, you spent a little bit of time, again, on tours, basically.
I did 3 tours out of the reserves, yeah.
Were you expecting that, or was that kind of, oh, shit?
My leadership coming up was, you've always got to be ready because you never know when a balloon's going to go up. As a young Marine, as a leader of young Marines, because when I came into the reserves, I picked up sergeant almost right away. So, you want your junior Marines to practice how they're going to play. You as a coach, you coach a lot of sports. You want your kids to practice how they're going to play. Well, the military is no different. You don't want them going through and half-assing your stuff. You want game time scenarios, game time situations, game time. You want them to have that hat on all the time. So while we're training, that's what we're telling them. When the balloon goes up, you got to be ready. Whether they believe it or not, I don't know. But when the balloon went up, you could feel it throughout the entirety, and it was like, holy shit, here we go. And as a leader of Marines, it doesn't matter whether you have 3 assigned to you or you have 300 assigned to you. All you can hope is, I hope they were listening to every damn thing I said, because here we go.
Yeah. It's time to do what we've been talking about this whole time.
Yep.
So, 9/11 happened. And how long after 9/11 did you get called up to active duty? Is that what they call it? Or you're getting assigned to a mission? Like what is it that they call it when you're on reserves?
Reporting orders.
Okay.
You're getting reporting orders is how it come across. So, fun fact, working for GE, I'm sitting on the tarmac, 6 a.m., September 11th.
Tuesday morning, September 11th, you're getting ready to fly somewhere.
I am on an airplane sitting in Cincinnati, headed to Seattle. We roll out. We're number 1 for takeoff. I'll never forget it. He says, we're number 1 for takeoff. We go. It probably wasn't 6 a.m., but we were, wherever we were in the lineup, whatever time it was, probably around 9, 10 o'clock. We were number 1 for takeoff for that batch of planes. You feel the throttles, you're pulled back into the seat, and then we're about halfway down the runway. He throttles off, brakes, back to the terminal we go. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. As an aircraft mechanic, everything sounded good. Looking out the window at the wings, everything's looking good. You're wondering what the fuck is going on. He won't say anything other than, we've gotten some radio transmissions. We need to go back to the terminal and figure out what our next step is. We'll let you know. We'll let you know what's going on when we get back to the terminal. Get back to the terminal. They tell us that air traffic has shut them down. Everybody needs to get off the plane. Bags are being baggage claim. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. So we get off the plane. Never seen an airport as empty as I did that day, because we come off the plane. You look up and down the terminal. There is no one.
They cleared it.
No.
Oh, they didn't?
Everybody's packed into the bars and the restaurants, looking at the TVs.
Watching at the TVs.
Yeah. We walk back out of the gate, and there's no one. We're like, where the hell did everybody go? Around the corner, sure as shit, everybody's standing in front of the TV. And I don't know if we were watching a replay or we were watching the live.
Yeah.
We watched the plane flying in the second tower, and we're like, holy shit, what was that?
Yeah.
Well, learn what happened. We grabbed our trash, went back to the shop. Everybody at the shop, they gave everybody at the shop a day off. They're like, go home. We don't know what's going on. It's bad. Go home.
Right.
I dropped my toolbox, go home. This was right about the time I was engaged.
I was going to say, were you guys married yet?
Not yet. So run back out to the house, went straight down to the shed, grabbed my military gear out. I was like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is about to go off. I don't know when I'm going to need it, but we're going to need it. And it wasn't, but maybe a month, because I had drill in between when this happened and when we got orders. So the chatter had already started. I mean, you didn't have to be a scientist to know what the hell was coming down the pike.
Right.
So was pretty amped up for those next 3 months. Everything goes off September, October, November. November, we got put on orders. I got married in October. November, we go on orders. December, we start really ramping up. And then our training took us to 2002. So we were traveling around training up other units to go do what we were going to do. Because at the time, there's only one unit, our unit, in the entire reserve that did what we did, mortuary affairs. So we traveled around to a few different sites. Our I&I, they went out west. They trained up a couple more sites. That whole next year was really, in the grand scheme of things, it was like the 11th hour planning. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We finished up all that training, came home, had like 30 days, if that, and then we were on planes headed to Kuwait. And then we waited. We waited to get assigned to a unit, find out what convoys we were going to be attached to, what routes we were going to take, how we were going to be even divided up as far as a platoon, how we were going to be divided up, who was going to augment us, who were we going to augment. So that was a long time in Kuwait.
So did you go in specifically to do the job that you had been trained to do, or were they taking you, I'm not talking about the aircraft maintenance, I'm talking about as a reservist, or were they you had said earlier, every Marine, what'd you say?
Every Marine's a rifleman.
Every Marine's a rifleman. So were you going in basically to fill in roles into other divisions? Like what were the orders that you were sent in to do?
So joining the MPs, I wasn't an MOS trained MP. They had us, my platoon, the mortuary affairs platoon, the PRP platoon. We would do a little bit of PRP training during the drill weekend, but we were mostly the force against the MPs, so the MPs could train, right? Because most of our job, at least as we were being trained, we thought most of our job was mostly paperwork. So when all the paperwork was done, we were the force that the MPs would train against. We would ambush convoys, we would be the escapees, the EPWs. But then once the balloon went up, once all this shit happened, now mortuary affairs is a big freaking deal. Personnel retrieval and processing is what we were called before. Before that, we were Graves platoon. So this is a unit that doesn't, up until the Gulf War, hasn't been used since Vietnam. Once Vietnam is over, gets disbanded, gets stood back up for the Gulf War, doesn't get disbanded, but just kind of, nobody's trained in this MOS. It's not really, even at the time, it's not even an MOS. It's like a B billet, right? B billet is kind of like being how can I describe this? So my primary job at work is an aircraft mechanic. If I don't have any work as an aircraft mechanic that day, they're going to put me pushing a broom. You're the broom sweeper guy for the day. You know what I mean? So mortuary affairs was that kind of a job between the Gulf War and OEFOA.
Because you weren't going to retrieve you weren't going in to retrieve personnel that had deceased.
Right.
When there wasn't an action.
Right. The Marine Corps didn't have a need for that MOS. The Army has it. And the Army's, that's a full-time MOS for the Army. The Marine Corps didn't need it, didn't have it. But when OEFOF started, they stood it back up. And that happened, that unit happened to be, 1st Platoon, MP Company Charlie, Dayton, Ohio. We were Graves platoon for the entire Marine Corps. So they stood up. That's when we had to travel around, train up all these other units on what we did. The training, you're only as good as the training you're given, so shit in, shit out. So everything that we were being trained to do, it was dated, right? So we're training all these guys on all this dated stuff. Nobody knows exactly what we're walking into. So we get there. They assign us to different support elements. We're all three on different different routes heading up into Iraq. You know, it's like we're sitting in Kuwait. We say our goodbyes. They give us our vehicles. You know, a squad plus goes this way, squad plus goes this way, squad plus goes this way. So you never know if this is it or not. You never know if your buddies are, you're going to see your buddies again, if they're going to see you again, because you don't know what the fuck is coming tomorrow. Yeah. You know, you don't know what's coming 10 miles up the road. Once you leave outside the wire, all bets are off, you know. Mm-hmm. Even though you're in Kuwait, the big threat at the time were the Scuds. And the Scud fucking whistles are going off all the time. So as we get closer to the Iraqi border, you know, your butthole really starts to tighten up because you're like, oh, okay. You know, I don't think they're going to call this shit off now. You know, there's no rain delays on this one. So Scud whistles are going off. You can see what look like, you know, flares coming over top of you one way. You can hear the artillery booms, and you can see them for a short spell as they come over the other way. Now you're in it. You know, we wake up at 0 dark 30. Vehicles get cranked up. Everybody jumps in, and off we go. Roll through a big old hole in the berm, kind of knowing what we're supposed to do, but not really, because nobody out on this rolling convoy had done it, but only 2 guys. One was a master guns and one was a gunnery sergeant. But there's 3 squads, and you've only got 2 guys that have done it back in the Gulf War. So just like, okay, we'll do what we can do.
Nothing, I guess, could really prepare you unless you had been in it before.
Yeah. Seeing natural death, somebody die from natural causes is one thing. Mm. Seeing someone die from unnatural causes is something completely different. Mm-hmm. You know, everything from gunshot wounds, being run over by a tracked vehicle. This is before IEDs were cool, you know. But burning vehicles, drowning victims. I mean, I certainly had never seen anything like that. And the only thing they could get close for us was to go through the Army school and go to a local morgue so we could see some unnatural death. And that was probably the most intense training that we had.
So it was a psychological training more than anything else.
Again, mental toughness. Yeah.
So you were in Kuwait, Iraq. Did you go to Afghanistan?
No, didn't go to Afghanistan.
Where else did you go besides Kuwait and Iraq?
That was, well, in the early 2000s, I spent some time in Honduras, but not mortuary affairs, but just MPs.
And not related to this action?
No.
Yeah.
Dominate the day, that's what we're about to do. If you don't wanna dominate, then this podcast ain't for you. But if you are, then keep listening, cause every single damn day, the mission is to dominate. You already know we're here to dominate the day. So if you wanna dominate every day, then let's go, it's time to grow. This is another episode of Dominate the Day.